So, hello everyone, and thank you for finding the time today to join us in our Open Cities Planner webinar, sharing all our latest updates and news. First, I would like to introduce you our presenters for the day. We have Håkan Engman, our Business Development Director for Digital Cities. We have Johan Göransson, our Product Management Director, and Irma Ali, our Product Engineer. Uh, Before handing over to them, I would like to remind you that you can always stay connected with us. You can uh, sign up for our regular newsletters, or you can visit our blog and join our forum where you can exchange and discuss your ideas and views on OpenCities Planner related issues. Or you can submit a help ticket for us so we can assist you directly. A recorded version of our session will be available afterwards, so head over to Håkan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dora. So we have an exciting agenda today, starting with a brief intro by myself, and then Irma and Johan will demonstrate some user projects, explain some new features and how they are used, and also give some insight in upcoming features as well in development at the moment. And of course, you can ask questions in the chat, and we will respond to those in the end of the webinar. So OpenCities Planner is now used in cities, but also in campuses and seaports, airports, and we see engineering companies using it for collaboration in large projects. Also some owner-operators operating kind of big transportation networks, etc. So and use cases range from the traditional OpenCities Planner use cases of preparing data and serving data in the preparation of urban development, but also for the collaboration and communication to stakeholders. We also see use of surfacing actually the engineering information, all the in large projects receiving design models and documentation and surfacing those in OpenCities Planner. Asset and infrastructure management ranging from doing the inventory of assets in a city or in a campus area using mobile mapping and laser scan, etc., and to surface that data into different views federated with other information, as well as the actual operation phase using for facility management, connecting IT sensors, etc. But also we see sustainability and resilience themes for surfacing information for flooding and sea level changes and other aspects of climate change and impact, mobility and energy production showcases and in combination with other solutions in the portfolio of Bentley, and public safety and security. And so all those leveraging OpenCities Planner for its strength of collaborating and sharing data and federating different data sources. So many of the use cases you see, of course, can be implemented as point solutions and vertical solutions, but for digital transformation, the infrastructure digital twin is helping out to give a structure to the data and to also ensure interconnection between different application and data. So when we talk about digital twin, it's a capability of connecting data from different sources, or map data, map layers, but also the laser scans, the imagery from drone, from mobile mapping and other sources, as well as the design information. For example, in big projects to actually reuse the design models into more the life cycle of the assets, the structure, the bridges, the tunnels, the buildings, etc. So all these data federated and possibility to connect to other systems and IoT sensors, etc., to give a full perspective of the status and the health of the components and the assets in the environment. So, and this also giving the possibility to leverage AI and analytics to analyze the infrastructure, the chronology to actually handle the update of design models in the projects, and also the IoT data that is captured over time to actually learn and to predict for the future, and to use that for improving the infrastructure, and of course the visualization as well to use the context. But again, it's a federation open platform for federating different types of data sources, to be able to provide this single view of truth for the asset you want to control or to automate, to access the critical infrastructure data, to apply analytics to make data-driven decisions, and also to automate processes and workflows in an efficient way. So it's a platform to actually use over time and for different application. Of course, also the giving the context, maybe the 3D representation as a context for presenting and to explaining data, and to connect data into the visual context. So this aligns very much with the demand we hear from users as well. It's very much to provide a communication that is not only for a limited technical team, but also other stakeholders, also external stakeholders in the city, including also citizens, and to provide a simplicity in actually federating all the data, so one place to find the relevant data, and to give that to the whole organization, and to give a perspective of the assets that you operate. So OpenCities Planner very much kind of focusing on the accessibility and to make the data actionable in a structure, and to be able to apply integration to other systems and analytics. OpenCities for the new users on the webinar today, I mean, it's very much focused on the visualization, can handle unlimited amounts of data, unlimited size and resolution of data. It federates reality and map layers and engineering data and IoT and other data into one context. And also unique is the strength of the engineering richness of the system. It can integrate directly into the engineering workflows, into the BIM repositories, etc., using the iTwin platform as the basis for federating that data. And also unique, it's easy to use and deploy. It's on the cloud and all web access, so it's easy to actually start small and to grow and scale with the growth of scenarios and use cases and number of users. It has the data management power and editor to actually quickly set up data and scenes. And again, it's designed for simplicity and adoption. And important as well as to highlight is that OpenCities Planner is getting more and more integrated into the portfolio of Bentley for where we have extensive functionality for reality context, handling all the mobile mapping data, engineering context for all the engineering into design workflows and construction and operation, resilience for water and other aspects, geotechnical information and mobility. So all these different applications that kind of is still based on the iTwin, the digital twin structure of Bentley, and also can be connected to OpenCities. So I'll leave the next to Irma.
Thank you, Håkan. Hi, everyone. I'm going to share my screen and start by presenting. We're going to present three projects as a starting point before we talk about news and before we start explaining how you can use the new features and tools that we have created. So the first two projects that I'm going to showcase were very important because they drove a lot of development in our software. So by supporting these two projects, we have created a lot of new tools that will be covered by Yuan in the product news and then later on by me. So the first one is Mainstad, which is a project created by Gothenburg. Um, the new feature here is this start page or landing page that serves like a portal or a gateway to different projects and portals that they have connected into like one significant view. So all of these tiles represent different portals or projects. I'm not going to click on all of them. I'm just going to explain that the concept here was after Gothenburg had its 400 years celebration, they created this portal to engage with the community and explain what they have been, how the city has been growing. So I'm going to show this project. I thought it was a pretty successful one where it showed the stories of the Gothenburg city. So they had a lot of information that was geospatially scattered around the city and then visualized with points in a map. So all these points, when you click on them, you can see an image on this specific location that was taken, for instance, in 1876, and then some general information about who took it and where it's placed, and then a connection to their database. So all this information is stored in their database. What we did here, we just connected to that database and visualized that information in POIS. So what this project shows is a lot of stories that were happening in the city. But it also contains a form where the users can come in and add their own stories and then add comments to where they have a specific memory in the city. Another very successful project was this style, which was a direct communication with the citizens, where the city created a form where they asked the citizens basically to comment on any of these pre-configured categories and then add any comment on these categories, leave a position or a marker, and then submit the comment. What we developed for this use case was to create a verification step. This way, nobody that hasn't verified their account with an email cannot leave a comment. So it adds a significant layer of security to whoever is adding the comments in the portal. Another addition was adding specific custom-made POIs for the categories. This was something that has been asked for by our users for a long time. We finally managed to implement that. So Johan is going to explain how we do this a bit later. And then the last style was a portal that brought together all the development projects that were visualized in the city. So so all these icons represent different projects in the city. And then I think most of our users are already accustomed to how the portal project works. So it brings together different projects in one common screen, but also the next addition to this was to bring that portal with all the development together with the Gothenburg stories, the 400 years, the communication with the citizens, and the city development. So this is something that we'll show a bit later, technically how to do that, but it was a novelty that helped us create new features in OCP. A second project that's currently still under development is a project we're doing with Siemens and Frame in Berlin. It's for the campus Siemensstadt. This is not the project that we are currently building on. It was a proof of concept project. But I wanted to show parts of this project just because there were some additional things that we did to support this concept as well. To begin with, I just wanted to explain that most of the content that we brought here was open source data, like these existing buildings already existed in the Berlin website. The background layers, there were a lot of WMS layers that were brought into the project as well. So it helped us a lot to showcase that we support a lot of different file types that are already existing and have been created by the government. Another thing that I wanted to show was how we overlapped a lot of BIM files and CAD files in a same project. So this one is representing the utilities, existing utilities in the campus. They are all structured in different layers, and as you zoom in, you can see that it contains a lot of complex information that can then be overlapped in one project, and then it can serve as a good platform where you can see how the existing utilities overlap with the existing buildings or the new development, etc. Another thing was we created so to speak, a competition. It wasn't an actual competition. We showcased a possibility of creating a competition with BIM models. And so far, users have, I think, mostly been using Collada and KMZ files, but using BIM models is, I think, a bit, at least visually better, but also the advantage is that we keep all the BIM data stored inside of the project, so none of the information gets lost. So that was in general. We are doing still more development to support this project, not the proof of concept, but the actual project. So as a result of that, we are going to create a lot of new releases and features, but that I think we'll cover in another webinar. Johan, I think you can take over with Sydney now.
Okay, thank you. Sharing my screen, hope you can see it.
Yep.
Yeah, so I wanted to show another example of a campus digital twin, this time from down under. This is Sydney Airport. They are using OpenCities to build sort of like a one-stop shop for everything that's geo-related on the campus. And this solution is targeting everybody, almost everybody in the organization. I think it's more than 600 people working for and on the campus. And it's project managers looking for information for them when they're planning projects on the campus. It's the commercial team who are looking for information when they're looking after the commercial leases on the campus. It's facility management, and it's the maintenance and service personnel who can do pre-planning. They don't have to go out on site. They can do pre-planning in reality models, for instance. It's the environmental team. It's the corporate affairs. So a wide array, a wide range of people, and also a wide range of sources and data types that all comes together into this one digital twin solution in OpenCities. So let's have a look what it looks like. They are also using the new start page functionality, where they're bringing together different types. It's different themes of information targeting different user personas. So for instance, if we click on airport and operations, this would basically be the source of information for where everything is on the campus. So there's lots of groups and layers of different information that a user can turn on and toggle on and off and find the information that they're looking for. And depending on the information, this might come from a BIM model, from a CAD file. It might be a spatial database, like in this case, and it might allow digging down into the associated business data or information. If you're a project manager, you might go into check my development and to kind of look at all the restriction and support you through all the planning that you do for your project execution. So in the airport at any given time, there's hundreds of both small and large projects ongoing in the airport or on the campus. So this site here will give a project manager all the required inputs for the restrictions from the master plan, all the sensitive areas, all the environmental factors, or where all the services and utilities are on the campus. And it will also visualize the big ongoing development, there's a gateway project that's connecting the motorway to the highway, or to the airport rather. And in this solution, you can see both the 3D information for that massive project, but also all related to the information in the same view. So all this content, if you were to do this prior to this OpenCities solution, you would literally have to go through hundreds of folders of information and PDF to find the same depth of information as we can provide here in just a few clicks. So any one of these project highlights or project showcases that we just quickly went through, we could have done specific webinars just on those, but we just wanted to give you some. There's so much to tell today, so we're keeping it quite short. Switching to some news that we have released in 2021. I'll go over that, and then we'll focus in on a few of these things and actually show how to set it up in OpenCities Planner and how to work with it. Starting with the IMS login, we have switched from our own user authentication system to the Bentley Identity Management System, Bentley IMS. This is a unified authentication system that is used across all the Bentley products. So it's kind of if you're only using OpenCities Planner, you might not recognize the value that this brings, but as we are moving to more and more towards integrating with all other Bentley system products and systems, this is really important because it allows you to have one single sign-on and just use that. So everybody who's an OCP customer, you have an organization on connect.bentley.com, and the person in your organization who is administrator, they can invite other people to join this organization, or they can register a domain, which then if a user registered with that domain that you have registered belongs to your organization, they will automatically get associated to this organization. And this becomes useful if you start working with BIM models and CAD models and the iTwin stuff that we're doing, because then it matters if your user is actually on the same organization or not. So this is will be quite important even for those who are kind of pure OpenCities Planner users today. Start screens. Irma touched on this. So this is a new kind of a level above portals, where you can create a landing page, which is a collection of both portals and projects. So the tiles that we see here in Minstad, that's actually a combination of both. So the crowdsourced ideas, that's just a project, and historical images and stories, that's a project. But 400-year anniversary projects and urban development projects, they have actually another level below them because they are portals. So with start screens, you can bring a lot of content together, like we saw in Sydney Airport, without it becoming messy or unmanageable. It's a nice way to combine a lot of information in different levels. In Minstad, we also saw some new styling functionality for the dialogue and FormBuilder. So these submissions, they can all have a general submission icon, so you can customize it. It used to be locked to only a speech bubble, but now you can actually customize it to your icon of choosing. And if you're using the dialogue category, component, you can also have specific icons for the different categories that you're using. So you set it up by just, it's a new setting in the category or on the form, where you can launch the icon library, where you can pick one of our standard icons, or you can even upload your own. Email verification, Irma touched on it, but this is a setting. If you'll enable that, it will require that the user actually enters a valid email, and then OCP will send a verification link to that email. The user have to click that link to verify that they actually submitted the suggestion. So it's a simple way of providing a little extra, spam protection. There's also settings to where submissions are stored. So by default, we have an internal storage format, and then you have to export it to, if you want to use it in another system. But now you can actually pick if you wanted to save it in your PostGIS or Postgres database. So we can push the submissions directly to your database, or you can select it to be a source in DataManager. So if you do that, it will create a source in DataManager, and then it's a feature source, so you can do styling and you can do other things in DataManager that you normally can do on feature sources, like for instance, search enable it, or sorry, or doing a thematic coloring based on number of likes or something like that. The mobile user experience has been improved. We have overall it's a much more cleaner interface. We removed some components, or we rather changed some components, how they appear, to give more screen space, to be a bit more cleaner. It also supports the start screens that we have developed. So it's an overall cleaner experience than before. KMZ 3D model uploads has gotten some new settings as well. First thing is the pivot setting. What happens when you upload a 3D model to OpenCities Planner is that we actually recalculate the pivot point from whatever it was in SketchUp, for instance. We're recalculating it to the center of mass, and then we do rotation, and we also do, if you manipulate the coordinates, it's around the center of mass point. But in some cases, you might actually want to keep the original pivot point that you had in the KMZ. For instance, you might know the coordinate of a specific corner of your model. So with this setting, you can switch back to the original pivot point, and then if you enter the coordinates for that point, you would move it accordingly to that pivot point. Same with rotation. There are also a couple of new conversion settings when you upload KMZs. The first one is that you can choose to ignore the KML rotation. We have seen that some versions of SketchUp actually they perform a rotation on the vertices of the 3D model, but then they also write the same rotation or transformation in the KML, which in OpenCities Planner then would be a double addition. It would take the rotation from the vertices, but also the ones in the KML. So to get around that problem, we have the setting where you can choose to ignore the KML orientation. The second setting is do geographic transformation. This is something that you want to do if you have a KMZ that's accurately coordinate referenced or geo-referenced, then you want that setting. But if you're bringing in, say, a KMZ that's not coordinate, it's a geo-reference somewhere else. Maybe you have gotten some example model that you want to use. Then if the setting is enabled to do geographic transformation, it can lead to scaling issues with the KMZ, because it assumes that it's geo-referenced while it's not really correctly done. So we see the example here where the bottom 3D model was uploaded without the do geographic transformation, and the top one uses the do geographic transformation. So this was a sample KMZ that I found somewhere and was not geo-referenced to where I wanted it, and that's why this problem occurred. For iModels, they are the content pipeline for CAD models and BIM models in OpenCities Planner. It uses the iTwin platform. We have done some updates here as well. One update is that we can now select which version of an iModel that we want to display. And you can also, and we have also updated the interface to do the configuration of the iModel. You can also reference attributes that's part of the iModel with this syntax here. And this can be used to link to a web service, or it can be used to do custom styling of the attributes. So in this example that we see here, we're using a specific attribute from the iModel and then passing it on as a parameter to a Power BI dashboard. And then that Power BI dashboard does some magic in the backend and brings up the associated data. So when I, as a user, click on an element in this iModel, this code is executed, and OCP grabs the attribute that I've specified here, the node ID, and passes on that as a value to the Power BI dashboard. But a more simple use case again would be just to do custom styling, where you reference the attributes that you want and you do some HTML markup or something to create a nice looking properties window. And the same syntax can also be used for feature sources and map data sets. Design review, that's the BIM application from Bentley, or a BIM application basically. It allows you to do a lot of dig down into iModels and do thematic coloring and visualizations based on attributes. It allows you to do section cuts and do a lot of more advanced things on a specific iModel. We have integrated so we can actually read out states that you have prepared in design review. So this can be layer configuration, it can be the output of data visualizations, it can be section cuts, and even rendering modes. So I think Irma's going to show this a little bit later. Some interaction improvements that we have done. There's a sidebar option for on-click actions, meaning that a details window that used to be only pop-up windows or embeddable window, they can now appear in a side panel instead, and it's resizable by the user. Even layer buttons can now support an on-click action. So when the user clicks on a layer, you can pop up a details window, or you can show some embedded website, or you can run a custom JavaScript. And another interaction improvement that we have done is object highlighting. So when you click on objects that have on-click actions, when you click on them, we can highlight them in the map. Switching to DataManager features, we have some new feature sources. Microsoft SQL Server, WFS, GeoJSON, and the ArcGIS feature server. So we support the same features and settings that we do on any feature source, attributes, styling, clipping, and searching. Points of interest or point sources can be styled as points of interest in the map. This was what we saw in the Minstad project. The styling is done via script, and I will go over how this workflow actually works a little bit later. There's also a start view option where we can actually set that we want to zoom in to deploy on click. These feature sources that are prepared in DataManager, they can also be used for search now. Search was possible in OpenCities Planner before, but then you had to upload a shapefile specifically for that purpose. But now it's enabled on all feature sources that you set up in DataManager. And it also does object highlighting when selected and you can set it to show attributes when selected in the layer list as well. I'll show how to do that a little bit later as well. WMS output from DataManager. Map datasets can be outputted as WMS. This is the benefit. The benefit of this is that you get automatic projecting on the train. And that's something you can do on feature sources from DataManager, but then you would have to do that via script. So this, sorry, this does that automatically. Point clouds are also supported now in OpenCities Planner. It's the Orbit OPC file format. You can upload it directly to DataManager, or you can connect them to ContextShare and read them from ContextShare. It's very simple. You just configure, and then you can visualize it side by side with reality models and other content that you have in OCP. So a little bit of a summary of the data types and formats that we now support in DataManager and OCP. So we support features, raster like aerial imagery, DTMs, 3D models, a lot of BIM and CAD file formats thanks to the iTwin integration, reality models, and point clouds. And the new additions are GeoJSON, WFS, ArcGIS feature server, Microsoft SQL, and the OPC point cloud format. Finally, before I hand over to Irma, we have launched a Microsoft Teams integration, a Teams app, which is available in the Teams App Store. So you can add when you add this little app, you can assign or add an OCP project to a channel, so it will appear as a tab in that channel. So try it out and let us know what you think. And with that, I think back to you, Irma.
Yep. Hopefully Johan can catch his breath now. Okay, so I created this little fake project here just to serve as a gateway so that I can start talking about features. Some of the things that Johan mentioned under news, I'm now gonna show how to work with it basically. So as Carol, you mentioned or asked whether we can show multiple iModels at the same time. The thing that I showed in Siemens with the different BIM models in the competition, they were all different iModels placed in different layers, as opposed to what you are going to see here in this example. This is one and the same iModel that I am color coding and changing in design review. So that's another Bentley application that I will show how you can do that. So this is a good thing about this is you don't have to copy or create multiple iModels and then not know which one is the last version or store them in places where you lose them, etc. In this use case, you work with one iModel and that is your single source of truth, and then you do some customization in design review, and then in OCP we show those changes directly here. So what I'm showing here, as well as one iModel with different colors, is also the option of adding a side panel, sidebar to each one of the layers. So far, we only had this feature for the information button, but it was kind of limited because it explained only general things about the project. In case you wanted to have a short explanation about each one of these single buttons, so layers or groups, you were unable to do that. You could create a POI in the center of the screen, then click on that and then show a side panel. But a POI is a very kind of local representative of your information. So it's not as handy as having this information panel connected directly to your layer and group. So that's what Johan said when he mentioned that we have this on-click action on a layer. So to show that right away, it's super simple. Most of our users already know how to do that. When you click on the layer or the group, actually this is implemented only on layers, so not on groups. you have an on-click option, and it's the same as it has been so far. The only thing that's new here is now we have an interaction type, so you can choose whether to have it as a window. So let me show you. Oops, did I change the right one? The owner, oops, so this one. So either as a window or a side panel. So very basic under on-click. Another thing I wanted to show is how I created these colors. I'm switching now to the design review application. There is a tool here that is a data visualization tool where you can create your own coloring based on different attributes. So I had some attributes that were added to the 3D model. I don't know, I have a size as an attribute. I can generate all the attributes that are stored in here and then also add a name to it. I already created this, so I'll add size too. And generate. Maybe, maybe I need to reload. It's been on for a while, but this is gonna take a while. So while this reloads, another thing that I wanted to show in this project was an integration, not just the side panel, but also an integration to design review. So I added another eye model on this in this side panel. So it's now when I click on a building to illustrate a concept, this could lead to a more detailed 3D model of the building or infrastructure of the building, or in this case, I'm going to open 2D drawings, CAD drawings of a floor plan of the building, etc. So the point here being that you can have like a zoomed out state in OCP that shows your development in a rough volumed style, but then you can overlap that with more detail that you then just by clicking on it show on a side panel by using design review. So this side panel can be stretched, of course. This was limiting before. We only had the option for you as an editor to configure how wide your screen is going to be. But now you can, all the users can just come and stretch the window to the size that they need to understand and read these files. And so these files are now, it's basically, it's not a screenshot, it's opening design review window. So it has all the capabilities that a design review project has. So let's see if this managed to open. Okay, so one more time. So these are the data visualizations I already created. Maybe I can show you that. So these are the attributes that are linked to the height information, and I color coded them here as well. So let's see, size. Yeah, now it generates. So I'm not going to show that much how it works in design review because I'm not an expert, but just so that you know, there is a tool in design review where you can color code your buildings. As you can see, it color coded here by the feature of size. Apart from that, and then, yes, sorry, what you do after you color code your model, you can come here and create a snapshot. It basically saves the settings of the buildings that are modified in this window, and then you add a name to it. It's important to absolutely share this view, and I'm going to show how then it looks in OCP. But before I go back to OCP and grab this view, I just wanted to mention that this also supports a section plane. So now you can do cross sections. Let's say, I mean, maybe this doesn't make that much sense on a 3D development building, but if you had a building, a detailed BIM model of a building, and then you can do cross sections there and then use that cross section in OCP as well. Apart from that, there was also, oh, let me just do this. there are also different render modes that we now support in OCP as well. So if you want to visualize your models just as wireframe, you can do that here also. So you select wireframe, for example, and then again, you have to create the screenshot and then save that screenshot and share it. So I already created these screenshots under color here. So height, owner, price. So these were the ones that I used in that project. So first I created them in design review, and what I did when I came in OCP, first I added my iModel. So we know by now how to add an iModel, hopefully. We select the project and we select the iModel we want to add and click save. And then it will save the configuration, and when we click add, it will add the iModel into our worksheet. So what we do now here, we have custom configuration. This means that you can manually choose which layers to toggle on and off. And in this example, this model only has one iModel and one layer. So doing a custom turning off doesn't really change anything. But if you go under saved views now, you have colors. So this is the group of the saved views. So it correlates to this. So this is a group and this is a group. So now with the colors that were created here, I can select which view. So I can select owner. Let me just turn off layers because I think it's becoming a bit confusing here. So I'll turn off the ones that I created before so that I can only see the one I added now. So I can choose owner or height. And as I choose this, the color changes. It could be the color, it could be the layers that you want to toggle on and off that you have already pre-configured here. It could be the cross-section plane thing that I showed, or it could be the wireframe mode, etc. All these are the saved views that you've created here and published. And then inside of OCP, we grab those views and then visualize them here in the interface. Okay, so I have to show one more thing because we are kind of running out of time, and that is project grouping. But let me first switch to another instance. So project grouping is something we showed with the Gothenburg Minstad project. So how do you do a start page? So I'm going to start by creating a new project, and if I go here, manage, so project grouping is a new button we created. And you click here. Before we had project and portal, and now we have start screen as well. And it works pretty similar like the way portal did. So you just click portal and then select which projects to include. So the same thing with the start page. You just, click on it and then select which, reload. Bear with me. Yeah. I guess I'm not having any projects here. There seems to be an issue with our bug, but yeah, we'll have a look in this. Maybe I can show you in this other instance. Oh, okay, here it works. So you click on start screen and it lists out all the projects and portals that you have. And again, so you just start by selecting the ones that you want to use, and they appear as tiles on the screen. You can you can add an image to each one of these tiles in the project settings of this project. And you can also add external websites. So you click here and then you add the URL, you can add an image to it, and it will become a tile here in the interface. And then in that sense, you don't just have to connect OCP projects and portals in your start page, but you can also have your websites here as well. I think that is all on my side, Johan. I think you can take over.
All right. So final thing that we wanted to show us in terms of workflow I want to go over the workflow to create points of interest from a point feature source in DataManager, just like we saw in Gothenburg and in Sydney Airport as well. So a feature source, I mean, to reiterate, that could come from a spatial database, could come from WFS or ArcGIS feature servers, or it could come from files. And in this example, I'm going to show the workflow from shapefiles that have been uploaded, but it's really the same no matter what. So here I have a bunch of uploaded shapefiles, POIs. I create a feature source, and in this case it's a shapefile. Give it a name, check that the coordinate system is the correct one. And this will take a little while depending on the size or type as well. But when it's created, I'll go in and edit it. So what I want to do now is I want to go to advanced visualization. And here I want to pick the icons from the icon library that I want to use. And then I have to use a little JavaScript. And this is available in the documentation, in the help pages. So if we just pause, oops, sorry about that. That's not how you pause videos. If we go back to where we were. And if we have a look at the script here. So what this script doing is the on feature function here. That's a special function that's used for sources in DataManager. Then what I'm doing, this is custom JavaScript. So I'm defining a variable, and then I'm giving it the ID of the image that I want to use. So I can copy it by hitting this button up here. And then I'm just telling the feature to have the style of a place mark with the URL to the icon, which is what I've defined here, and with the width and height. It's also then important to set that the altitude mode is supposed to be relative to the ground. Otherwise, it might land on the below the ground or something like that. So we want to do that. And then when that is configured, we can create a map data set from that source. So feature, give it a name, and then that's it. We head over to the editor, go to map data sets, and then we'll bring in that POI layer. So it can be as simple as that. You see now that all the POIs have the same icon, and if we rotate around, we can see that it's relative to the reality model. So the POIs are on the roofs of the buildings. If we want to do something more advanced, like in this data set, there's actually the POIs are classified as different different classes. So I want to display different icons for the different classes. So what I want to do here, number one, I want to bring in the icons that I want to use for the different classes. Then I'm writing a little JavaScript, a switch statement. This is standard JavaScript code. So I'm doing a switch statement on the attribute class that has the classification. In this case, it's called F class. And then I'm doing a case statement for all the different attributes that I want to target. So beginning with the type video shop. This might be a data set from the 90s because I don't think video shops exist anymore. But I'm checking if F class is matching with video shop, then I'm gonna use a different icon. I'm not gonna use this first icon. I'm gonna copy an ID of one of the other icons from up top. So copying that and pasting that. So what happens well, and then what I want to do now is I want to add to this because I have a lot of classes that I want to represent with this specific icon. Maybe this is the class. All these classes are from the parent class commercial. So then I want to add all the different classes that I want to represent with the commercial icon. And then I do that for all the different, parent classes that I want to represent. You can see it here. It's quite a long list of different types that are in the data set. And then when I go back up to the header, I can see it in all the different colors and icons. The next step is to configure the on-click action. So number one, we go back to editing the source in DataManager. We'll turn on the attributes that I want to be available. And then I'll go back to the editor. And this is configured in Object Manager on the settings on the object, on the data set here. We can go to on-click action, and we have by default, we can set it to be attributes, but we can also switch to details window. And this is what we did in the Gothenburg project. One of the attributes coming from the source had a URL to an image. So we could actually pick that as an image URL here, and then it displays that nice historical image that Irma showed before. We can do the same with image caption. And then we can do the referencing that I talked about before in description, and then we can create a whatever representation of the attributes that we want the user to see. So this, as you can see here, it's using the syntax with a $ attributes and then the name of the attribute I want to use. And in this case, it's a very simple styling, but we could do something more advanced. So here I'm just making the kind of the names of the attributes in bold, but it could be something different. I could also have a linked website that I want to embed, and I could reference in the same way. Final step, if I want to make this searchable, I'll just go back to the source and I'll enable the attributes that I want to make to be search enabled. I'll go to search in the product settings. I'll enable it and then turn on the data source that I want to be searchable. Could be one or several. And then configure the on-click action. And then search for my favorite restaurant in Marseille. So that's fairly quickly, but that's the workflow to prepare a point source visually represented as classified, place marked, points of interest, and then make it search enable. Finally, I wanted to highlight a few things that we are currently developing that I think will be interesting to see. We are doing an integration with Orbit. So Orbit is a Bentley product for managing, for analyzing, and for sharing point cloud data and panoramic imagery and reality models to some extent. So we are doing an integration with Orbit, where you can, as we can see here, do a side-by-side split with Orbit. So we have OCP view showing kind of the world view, and then you can dive into the panoramic imagery and the point cloud in the left side with the Orbit view. These views can be set to be synchronized, so when I navigate in one, the other one will navigate as well. And then as we see here, I can switch to point cloud here and do, if I want to do more advanced measurements, for instance, then I can do in OCP. I can switch to this point cloud view. We are also adding support for 3D tiles and for reading 3D tiles from ContextShare. So 3D tiles is a standard format for reality models, and it's used by other iTwin applications within Bentley. So we are very happy about this development. It will simplify for users who already are using other Bentley solutions and reality models in those solutions. Now OCP will be able to read directly from the same sources without conversion. Final thing that I kind of want to highlight is a drag and drop capabilities of CAD and BIM models for OCP. So the workflow for creating AI models today and bringing them into OpenCities Planner is a bit cumbersome. There are quite a few steps. The interaction that we are targeting is just simple this. We want you to be able to drag a DVG file or a Revit file or IFC or any of the other supported CAD and BIM models. Just grab it from your desktop, drag and drop it to the OCP editor, and that will do everything for you. That's it, basically. And as an addition to this development, or in combination, or to enable this, we are also going to support that you can associate an OpenCities Planner project with a Connect project. And a Connect project is kind of a centralized concept in Bentley. A Connect project can be the combination of many Bentley products that can work towards the same Connect project, share the same users, and share the same data sets. So what we want to do is that we want to enable that an OCP project can be linked to a Connect project to ease this exchange of information and to enable this centralized management of users. So what we're building is that one OCP project can link to one Connect project, but one Connect project can link to several OCP projects. So you might have 10 different scenes connecting to the same Connect project, and then these OCP projects will have a synchronized user management, and it will also have synchronized, so we can reuse IMOs that you have created in one and reuse in the next one. But we will, when we are getting closer to having this launchable, we will do a specific webinar on this whole thing, because I realize it's a lot of new concepts, but I think it will be amazing. So that's a little sneak peek of what we are working on. Let's head over to questions.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. If you have more questions, please leave your comments on the chat and we will reply to you via email. And always remember that you can submit a help ticket to us from our help section on the interface, and also sign up for our regular users newsletter with all our updates, tips, tricks, and user cases for your inspiration. So thank you everyone for today, and we will notify you when the recorded version of this webinar will be available for you, so you can share it with more people within your organization. Thank you everyone for joining. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.